When consumption overtakes structure, when appetite overrides foresight, imbalance quietly forms. And imbalance, if left uncorrected, reshapes families, communities, and eventually nations. The Torah approaches this instability not through abstract theory, but through agriculture. In the ancient Hebrew world, wealth was rarely described in coins alone. It was measured in flocks, fields, grain, oil, vineyards. And within that agrarian framework, a rule emerged, seldom announced directly, yet embedded everywhere. Never eat the seed. It is not phrased as slogan in the text. It is encoded in law, narrative, and rhythm. To understand this rule, one must step back into the soil of the ancient Near East. 1. The agricultural foundation of wealth. In an agrarian society, seed and bread are not the same. Bread satisfies hunger. Seed ensures continuity. They may look similar in form, but their purpose differs entirely. If a family consumes all harvested grain, including what should be reserved for planting, the next season collapses before it begins. This was not metaphor to the ancient Israelite, it was survival logic. The Torah assumes this awareness and builds law around it. Leviticus commands that fields must be sown 6 years and rest in the 7th. During harvest, corners of the field are left for the poor. First fruits are separated, tithes are allocated. These separations are not symbolic generosity alone. They are structural divisions of yield. Produce is categorized before consumption. In that categorization lies the seed principle. 2. Joseph and the 5th portion. The clearest early articulation appears in the narrative of Joseph in Egypt. During 7 years of abundance, Joseph does not allow Egypt to consume surplus entirely. He institutes a system where 1/5 of produce is stored. It is not celebrated as austerity. It is presented as prudence. When famine arrives, Egypt survives because seed was not eaten. The 5th portion functions as preserved capital. Joseph does not abolish consumption, he limits it. The text does not romanticize scarcity, it anticipates fluctuation. The economic architecture is clear. Abundance must contain reserve. 3. The sabbatical year and deferred harvest. The sabbatical year intensifies the principle. Every 7th year, fields lie fallow. Agricultural activity pauses, debt is released. Productivity ceases temporarily. From a short-term perspective, this appears economically inefficient, but it protects long-term fertility. Soil depleted by relentless planting loses vitality. Rest preserves capacity. The Torah does not rely on endless expansion. It builds pause into prosperity. Seed must remain seed. If land itself is treated as consumable rather than regenerative, collapse follows. The agricultural metaphor extends beyond grain. It becomes world-view. 4. In capital and consumption in biblical law. Deuteronomy repeatedly separates categories of wealth. Tithes are allocated. Firstborn animals are consecrated. Portions are assigned to Levites, to the poor, to pilgrimage festivals. Every harvest undergoes division before enjoyment. This sequencing is deliberate. Allocation precedes appetite. In modern terms, this resembles the distinction between capital and income. Capital generates yield. Income is yield. The Torah does not use these modern categories, but it operates within them implicitly. Flocks reproduce, fields regenerate. Vineyards mature slowly. If breeding animals are slaughtered indiscriminately, herd diminishes. If orchards are stripped prematurely, future harvest weakens. The law repeatedly guards generative sources. 5. Abraham's discipline. Abraham accumulates wealth gradually. Livestock multiply, silver and gold increase, yet the narrative highlights restraint. And after defeating local kings in Genesis 14, Abraham refuses to claim spoils beyond necessity. He declines wealth that arrives detached from stewardship. His wealth expands through managed herds, not through unstructured windfall. Even when God promises multiplication, Abraham must still manage tents, servants, wells. Promise does not negate process. Seed remains separate from feast. 6. The psychology of eating the seed. Eating the seed is not always visible. It occurs when future-producing assets are liquidated for present comfort. It occurs when savings are consumed without replenishment. It occurs when skill development is neglected for immediate consumption. The Torah's agricultural language encodes psychological restraint. Delayed gratification is not framed as moral heroism. It is presented as ordinary survival. In wilderness narratives, manna is given daily. Excess cannot be hoarded beyond instruction. Yet on the sixth day, in double portion is gathered for Sabbath. Even provision is structured around rhythm. Consumption without rhythm destabilizes identity. 7. The Talmudic extension rabbinic literature elaborates on capital preservation. Partnership contracts define roles clearly. Investment shares risk proportionally. Lending without interest within the community reduces compounding strain. Jewish commercial tradition historically emphasized diversification and education. Education itself functions as seed capital. Time invested in study is yield deferred. This perspective emerges not from modern finance, but from agricultural memory. Seed must not be eaten. 8. The modern salary trap. In contemporary economies, salary often replaces harvest as primary income source. Salary arrives regularly, resembling predictable yield. Yet many consume salary entirely, leaving no retained capital. When salary equals bread and no portion is designated as seed, future autonomy diminishes. The trap is subtle. Income appears sufficient. Lifestyle expands proportionally. Savings shrink. Without capital reserve or productive asset accumulation, dependence on wage persists indefinitely. The Torah's principle would categorize undifferentiated salary consumption as eating the seed. Not morally wrong, structurally fragile. 9. The discipline of separation. Separation is a recurring theme in the Torah. Light from darkness, holy from ordinary, clean from unclean. Economic separation mirrors this pattern. Seed from bread, capital from consumption, reserve from surplus. Clarity precedes stability. When categories blur, erosion begins. Families that fail to distinguish between principle and yield gradually dissolve wealth. Ancient Israel embedded categorization into daily life through ritual and law. The structure reinforced discipline unconsciously. Historical continuity. Throughout centuries of diaspora, Jewish communities rebuilt repeatedly after displacement. How? By preserving portable seed. Portable capital in the form of trade skills, literacy, communal funds, and documented contracts. Even when land was confiscated, knowledge and network functioned as generative seed. Consumption was limited because vulnerability was remembered. Eating the seed was rarely an option in unstable environments. Discipline emerged from necessity. 11. Mend the danger of immediate gratification. Modern culture celebrates acceleration, immediate returns, instant upgrades, visible consumption. Agriculture resists this mindset. Planting does not guarantee immediate harvest. Orchards require years. Herds mature gradually. The Torah reflects agricultural patience. Its festivals follow seasons. Its economic laws follow cycles. It distrusts sudden excess without structure, because acceleration without root depth destabilizes. 12. A subtle illustration. An olive tree produces fruit only after years of growth. Early pruning determines long-term yield. If young branches are cut prematurely for fuel, fruiting weakens. The farmer knows this instinctively. The Torah speaks to people who knew trees. Its economic ethic grows from arboriculture. The metaphor extends quietly. Human capital requires cultivation. Financial capital requires reinvestment. Communal capital requires contribution. If each generation consumes entirely what it inherits, continuity collapses. 13. Misunderstanding. Prosperity, biblical blessing, is often misinterpreted as abundance for enjoyment alone. Yet blessing language is tied to multiplication and continuity. Your barns shall be filled is followed by obligations of tithe and offering. Full barns are not invitation to excess. They are sign of stewardship. The law never permits exhaustion of generative source. Even sacrificial system regulates which animals may be offered, preserving breeding stock. Preservation is embedded everywhere. 14. The quiet rule. The Torah never explicitly states, "Do not eat the seed." It does not need to. Every agricultural instruction assumes it. Every cycle implies it. Every inheritance law protects it. The rule is woven into narrative, law, and rhythm. It is less commandment than orientation. 15. Closing reflection. Power without limits destabilizes society, and so does appetite without restraint. The Jewish rule of never eating the seed is not slogan, but architecture. Separate capital from consumption. Preserve generative source. Resist exhausting tomorrow for today. In ancient fields of barley and olive groves of Judea, this principle was survival. In modern economies of salary and asset portfolios, it remains stability. The Torah encodes it quietly through soil and season. And in that quiet agricultural wisdom lies a law of wealth more durable than any sudden gain. Seed remains seed, bread remains bread, and continuity survives.